Stepsister destroyed my wedding by proposing to my fiancé, and actually married him. But karma always came back to the wrongdoer and hit hard in the most unexpected way. Though we were of the same age, Joanna was stronger than me and could handle bullies really well. She was more towards the extrovert side, and I am a nerdy introvert. Joanna was not an outright bully but definitely toxic and mean. She would pass sarcastic comments at me for my poor dressing sense and communication skills. Our parents tried to enforce a civil relationship between us, if not friendship. No matter how much they tried, we just couldn't bond. She would try to boss around, and I would push back. The situation was neutralized only after I moved out, which was quite early. I moved out when I was 15. After that, we only met twice a year when I went home during breaks. She moved out when she was 20, and after that, we met only twice in the last 5 years. Similar to our nature, we chose our professions. I'm a lab technician at a research institute, and she's a flight attendant. All this doesn't matter. The fact that she is gorgeous and better groomed than me is all that matters to men. Nick, 27 million, and I have been seeing each other for 3 years. Last fall, Nick went down on his knees and asked me to marry him. I screamed a yes because, why not? I loved him so dearly. He was the most precious thing in my life. This spring, we planned our wedding. When it comes to planning an event, I am not so good at it. So when Joanna requested that she wanted to plan it for me, I couldn't be happier. I let her take the lead. I am sure something would have happened during the planning that sparked their relationship because they had not met before. 2 months ago, we had our engagement and then announced our wedding. That was the first time Joanna had met Nick. Nick was my only proper boyfriend. Introverts and relationships are not a good combination. Nick seemed different. He was ready to invest in a meaningful, long relationship. So after dating for 3 years, when he proposed, I was elated. He wanted to marry right away, but I wanted a spring wedding, so we delayed it this far. I didn't tell anyone about my plans until this January when we sent out an invite for our engagement. The day after our engagement, Joanna called me and asked if she could plan my wedding. I was shocked because we didn't have a good bond while growing up. She said she wanted to make up for her behavior. I said, "That's okay, you don't need to do this. We're not teenagers anymore." She said she wanted to do it because she had more time than me and could pull her contacts to get us some thrilling discounts. I agreed because I have a busy schedule. It was during the wedding preps that she started hitting on Nick. This is my theory, though. I noticed some changes in Nick's behavior. I confronted him, and he said it was due to work, that he wasn't getting enough sleep and was working late. That could be a lie. Maybe he was busy and tired, but the day before the wedding, the event manager gave us a tour of the wedding arrangements. Joanna was with us. The event manager was her friend. That was the only time I noticed their closeness. She was giggling and talking to him as if they had known each other for ages. I had an eerie feeling and wanted to confront them right there, but then I stopped, thinking I might ruin the atmosphere. The wedding was the next day, and then Joanna would be out. It would be just me and Nick, so I let it slide. On the day of the wedding, I didn't see Joanna. I thought she must be busy outside taking care of the arrangements. When I was walking down the aisle, I saw her sitting in the corner. She looked sad. I didn't bother to think about her. That moment was not for me to think about her. I walked down the aisle. Nick was smiling, but he didn't seem to be as happy as I expected. His hands were sweaty. I asked him what happened, and he said, "Nothing, just a little nervous." As I was standing at the altar, I could see Joanna's downhearted face. She was sobbing. I got confused because we weren't that close for her to sob at my wedding. Plus, it wasn't happy tears. She looked miserable, as if she hadn't slept all night. The pastor began the process by asking if anyone had a reason to object to this wedding. At this, Joanna stood up and started crying profusely. All the eyes fell on her. I was frozen. I gestured at her, asking what the hell she was doing, but she wasn't looking at me. She was glued to Nick. The pastor asked her the reason for her objection. She knelt down and joined her hands as if she was praying. She said she was madly in love with Nick and couldn't see him getting married to anyone but her. I yelled at Joanna to stop. I rushed down the altar and screamed at her to stop this nonsense. Mom and Dad also stood up and tried to lift her, but the damage was already done. This was still fine because Joanna has always been mean to me. I knew she could go to any lengths to ruin my life. My world stopped when I looked back at Nick, and he was also crying badly. He was sitting on the floor with his face buried in his palms. I rushed to him and asked him what was the matter. He didn't say anything. Joanna came running to him, lifted his face with her hands, and said, "This is our last chance, Nick. You have to speak up. If not now, it's going to be never. You'll be stuck with this woman, She's not going to leave you easily. I pulled Joanna's arms and asked what was going on. Is it some kind of prank? Then better stop, because I'm not liking it. It was evident to everyone what was happening there. People were glued to the drama. They got hot topics to gossip about for a month. Nick wiped her tears with his sleeves, looked at me, and said he had fallen in love with Joanna during the wedding preps. After listening to all this, I couldn't stand there. My legs were shaking so badly, it was beyond humiliation. I felt like I was ripped naked in front of the crowd. Our parents chipped in and took us outside. We had already given enough gossip to the people. I was crying so badly that I couldn't even walk. Dad escorted me out, while Joanna's mom was holding her arms and consoling her. Why on earth did she need to be consoled? Homewrecker. Nick and Joanna confessed to sleeping together a week before the wedding. They decided to consider it a one-time thing and move on, but they couldn't stop seeing each other. So, Nick's late-night work was actually his cheating trips to Joanna's place. They, in fact, slept together the night before the wedding. Nick said Joanna was so gorgeous, he just couldn't resist. I couldn't believe I was about to marry this scumbag. Though our parents were present, no one said a word. They preferred to remain neutral and stay out of it. I was done listening to their love story, so I ran into the changing room to grab my bag and car keys to leave the place. I went inside and saw myself in the mirror, wearing my wedding dress, and I couldn't help but break down. I was having a severe meltdown. Then Joanna entered the room. I screamed at her to get out. She said, "Yes, I will get out of here soon because my would-be Nick is waiting for me outside." I called her a homewrecker. She laughed at this and said, "Yeah, even Nick calls me that in bed." I wanted to smack her for the filth she was spitting. She said, "How could you imagine that Nick would marry you after seeing my gracious body? Have you seen yourself? You look like flat tires. Spongy, and your dressing sense just sucks. I wonder how Nick even fell for you in the first place. He is just too handsome for you." She slammed the door and left. I picked myself up and drove away from the venue. On the way, I realized I had nowhere to go. I had been living with Nick at his place. Surely, I couldn't go there. I called up my friend and asked if I could stay with her for a few days until I put my life together. She gladly took me in. 5:24. The next day, I got a text from a packers company asking where my stuff needed to be shipped. Nick had hired a packers company to get rid of my belongings. I was caught off guard because I had no place to keep my stuff. I called up Dad, and he offered to let me use the garage to keep my belongings. Amid the feelings of betrayal and pain, I was house hunting. My friends were my support system during this trauma. They helped me find a place, set up my stuff, and be there for me whenever I needed them. My friends have helped me enough to cope with this. I don't want to be more needy and scare them off. My wounds are still fresh, and I need someone to hear me out. I have enrolled in therapy, but it is monthly. Hence, I am writing this post as a self-help therapy. Update 1. Thanks to the ones who tried to understand my situation. However, to those commenting that it was my fault for choosing a cheater, asking how I didn't see this coming, or why I let Joanna plan my wedding and other ridiculous questions. If anyone is going through a heartbreak, do you console them or do you go around grilling them as if it was their fault? He cheated on me. I don't need to give explanations to anyone. These answers are for the genuine questions on my post. People asked how I got so close to Joanna that I invited her to the engagement and let her plan my wedding. Joanna and I got on talking terms after I moved out of the house. I wasn't so keen on inviting Joanna to my engagement, but my dad wanted it to be a full family affair. Joanna was also not so interested in attending my engagement, but Dad said this was the first event in the family, so everyone had to be present. When it came to planning the wedding, I've already explained in the initial post. I didn't have time, and she had contacts in the event management space. For everyone asking how I didn't know my fiancé was a cheater, here's the thing. If everyone could predict whether their partners are cheaters, there wouldn't be any divorces in the world. Negative people are everywhere, but you know what? I don't care because you reap what you sow. Coming to the updates, Joanna and Nick got married last week at the same venue. Look at her audacity. She emailed me the invitation card. It wasn't an invite but a way to show that she got him. I ignored and blocked her. I showed it to Dad, the one who always advocated that we are a family. Though I was pretending to be strong, I was tearing up inside. My friends came over with drinks and tacos to cheer me up. I got badly wasted that night to ease my pain. My friends suggested that I plan revenge on Joanna. They came up with some stupid and funny ideas to lighten my mood. One of my friends was smoking, and an idea clicked in my mind. Joanna is a smoker, not cigarettes but weed. I know what you're thinking. Who cares? Well, I don't, but her employer does. She's a flight attendant, and she's not allowed to have any of those substances. It puts passengers' lives at risk. Apparently, they're supposed to be lifesavers. Joanna and lifesaver, my ass. My friend and I wondered how she wasn't getting caught because airlines run regular tests on their employees. One of my friends suggested we tip off her employer and let them figure it out. I wasn't sure if it was going to work, but I decided to give it a shot. I had to do something to pull off my revenge. I sent an anonymous email to the airline with Joanna's details, saying she had been smoking during work hours. I got a reply that someone would reach out to me to get further details. The next day, I got a call, and they asked for detailed information. I made up a story and said I couldn't disclose my identity, but a few days back, when I was flying with their airline, I found Joanna high on something. Her eyes were red. I asked them to conduct their own investigation before taking action. They thanked me and hung up. I had very low hopes that it would turn out in my favor because I didn't reveal my identity. They might consider it a hoax. Update 2. Hey there, folks. I know it's been 2 years since I posted this. I wanted to detach myself from my past, so I ignored updating here too and eventually forgot about it. I've been getting a lot of messages from people asking what happened after the complaint to the airline, so here's all the update you need. After complaining about Joanna to her employer, I had mixed feelings. I wondered if I shouldn't have ripped off her livelihood. After all, it takes two people to cheat. It was Nick's fault too. Eventually, I started moving on, thinking that I got rid of a cheater, better before the wedding than later. I transferred to a different city to start a new life. Almost 2 years later, which was last month, I got a call from Dad. He wanted to meet me. I didn't want to, but he said he was in town, so I agreed. He said he needed my help with Joanna. Like what? I asked. He told me Joanna had lost her job because someone tipped off her employer that she was smoking during work hours. They did a random test, and she was caught. Upon being grilled, she confessed that she had been fooling the authorities for many years. She had contacts in the lab department who manipulated her test results to make them clean. She basically used to sleep with the testing guy. These charges not only cost her job but also her profession. No airline is now going to hire her after this. The airline didn't report her to the cops because it would have damaged their reputation. My tip-off worked, but by this point, I didn't care. I had moved on. When Nick found out about all this, he lost his mind. She tried to save herself by claiming that she was being framed by her colleagues because people were jealous of her good performance. Nick tried to stick around for a while, but she got herself wasted in alcohol and other substances. Eventually, he left her. She lost her job and her husband. She borrowed money from Dad to rent a place for herself, but instead of getting a place, she wasted the money partying. She was living on her friend's couch until her friend, fed up with Joanna's behavior, informed Dad about her condition before throwing her out. Dad brought her home and took her to rehab. He claimed she had gotten better and now wanted to restart her life. Dad wanted me to check with my contacts to get her an office job. I refused to help her in any way. Dad was disappointed that I turned him down, but he said he understood. After he left, my guilty conscience kicked in. No one knows that I was the one who got her sacked. I didn't know what to do. Update 3. This is probably going to be the last update because I'm done with this saga and want to move on. I helped my sister get a job and called it even, call it whatever, but I felt nice after helping her. However, no one can help a self-destructor. I got her a job at a publishing house. She started stealing books and selling them on the black market at cheap rates. She was caught and fired. My friend, who worked at the publishing house, was about to report her, but I talked her out of it, saying it would bring down the company's reputation. Dad has given up on Joanna and kicked her out of the house. Now she's on her own. God knows what she's doing with her life. This Christmas, I went back to my hometown to meet my friends. I visited home but only for an hour. During the Mass, I bumped into Nick. He was right beside me. The hallway was so crowded that we were forced to walk together. He said hello to me, and we got into a conversation. I tried to be mature and spoke to him politely. While leaving the church, he approached me again and asked for a few minutes. We went aside, and he said sorry. He admitted that sleeping with Joanna was the worst mistake and that to rectify it, he committed another by marrying her. He said Joanna guilt-tripped him, claiming he used her physically, so he thought he should do the right thing and marry her. I said, it's fine. I have moved on. He asked me if I was okay accompanying him to an art gallery the next day. I had no other plans, so I said yes. It was a normal visit. We hung out like friends, and none of us made a move. That same night, I came back home. My phone had discharged during the travel, and when I switched it on, there were 20+ messages from Nick. They were all about checking if I had reached safely, asking me to text him after reaching, saying he missed me, and wondering when we could meet next. I saw all of them and ignored them. The next few days were the same. He was constantly checking on me, saying he missed me and wished we could get back together. Ultimately, I told him I had moved on and didn't want to keep in touch with him. He asked, "If you weren't interested, why did you go to the art gallery with me?" I replied, "Dude, grow up, it didn't mean anything." His ego kicked in, and he hung up the call. A week later, I got a call at 2 a.m. I picked up, thinking it might be an emergency. Nick was on the other side. He said, "Nothing serious, just wanted to check on you." I started yelling at him when my boyfriend, who was sleeping next to me, took the phone and gave him a piece of his mind. My boyfriend is a sleep enthusiast and would bring wrath on anyone who disturbed his sweet slumber. I won't repeat what he said, but after that day, Nick never bothered me again. He finally understood that I had actually moved on. I didn't tell Nick that I had a boyfriend because I didn't feel the need to inform him. He's no one to me. I don't want to talk much about my current boyfriend because I don't want to jinx it. All I want to say is, I'm glad Nick found solace in Joanna because of his cheating. I got someone so much better. Heartbreak is never the end. I am going to delete this post after a few days. I wanted to give closure to all the sweet people who have been checking on me. Thank you for all the love.